At UFC 240, Cris Cyborg got back to her winning ways, taking a surprisingly competitive, though ultimately dominant decision win over Felicia Spencer. But though Spencer was the woman standing opposite her on Saturday night, Cyborg's true opponent was the same person it's always been, UFC President Dana White. White and Cyborg have had an acrimonious relationship since long before Cyborg ever signed with the UFC. Even once she did sign with them, the relationship was no less strained, with the UFC forcing an unnecessary cut to 140 pounds on her, and then crowning an inaugural 145-pound champion without her for reasons that still beleaguers the mind. That uneasy relationship reared its head again this week as, before her fight with Spencer, a presumptive #1 contender's bout, Dana White insisted on throwing his former champion under the bus instead of building up the fight. If you're following along at home, it's pretty easy to see why all of this has happened. Unlike most in the UFC's employ, Cris Cyborg is a bona fide star. She was one of the biggest names in women's MMA before signing with the UFC, and even after doing so, she always negotiated in her own best interest. That's why the UFC made a 145-pound title fight that didn't include her. Cyborg wanted time to recover from the difficult weight cut the UFC made her make to 140 pounds, and Dana wanted a shiny title to headline a PPV with. Timelines and health be damned. That same self-interest is what's caused Dana to badmouth Cyborg this week. Her fight with Spencer was the last fight on her deal, and there's a serious question about whether Cyborg will want to re-sign with the UFC. Perhaps she shouldn't. There's ample evidence to suggest that both parties may be better served by going their separate ways at this point. After all, Cyborg previously had an excellent relationship with Scott Coker in Strikeforce, and now Coker runs Bellator, an organization that Cyborg has said owns the best women's featherweight division right now. If Cyborg signs with Bellator, Coker would almost certainly make her one of the centerpieces of his organization, and a title fight with Julia Budd is a legitimately great fight. But that would be a mistake. As contemptuous as the Cyborg-UFC marriage has been, the fact of the matter remains that Cris Cyborg is one of the very best fighters on the planet, and the UFC houses most of the best fighters. And both parties may not realize it, but they need each other. For the UFC, Cyborg has already proven to be a legitimate PPV draw, capable of pulling in 300,000 buys and propping up a waning Brazilian market.